the Alex Eala versus Elena Rybakina.
The moment Alexandra Eala's name appeared in the bracket, Elena Rybakina's body gave something away, and the camera didn't miss a frame of it. This isn't a story about a tennis match, it's the story of a world number 2 who has built her entire career on control, now standing across the net from a 20-year-old from the Philippines who already took down world number 4 Coco Gauff and world number 10 Jasmine Paolini in 2026 alone, and who walked into Rome having just erased a personal defeat with cold, calculated precision. The pressure isn't theoretical, the data has already moved. But here's what the mainstream narrative is getting completely wrong. The shift visible in Elena Rybakina's composure isn't something Alexandra Eala created. It's the first public confirmation of something Rybakina herself has quietly admitted all season long, and what she said, in her own words, will change how you read every single moment of what comes next.
Our very own tennis sensation Alex Eala has just secured 2 massive, impressive victories at the Foro Italico. And her reward? Oh, it's just a date with the world number 2, the Ice Queen herself, Elena Rybakina.
For years, professional tennis has been building a very specific myth around Elena Rybakina. The Ice Queen, the unflappable Kazakh, the woman who won Wimbledon without so much as a visible exhale. But in 2026, the architecture behind that myth started showing its cracks. After claiming the 2026 Australian Open, her second Grand Slam title, won by defeating Aryna Sabalenka in the final, Rybakina said something that had never made it onto camera before. She admitted that during the highest pressure moments of a match, serving for a Grand Slam or navigating the closing stages of a set, her heart rate accelerates to extreme levels. The face stays neutral. The internal reality is the complete opposite. She described that gap not as confidence, but as deliberate psychological management. She isn't calm, she's controlled, and she confirmed explicitly in 2026 that she feels nervous a little bit every single time she steps onto a court, regardless of who's standing across from her. That's the foundation Alexandra Eala is walking onto, not the Ice Queen of the myth. The carefully managed interior of a world number 2 who carries a 25-5 record, more than $4 million in prize money this season, and a heart that races even when her expression says otherwise.
I was really nervous, and she has that style that is not usual.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I haven't thought about it much. I haven't had time to think about it much, but she's obviously a great player and is doing really well. A couple of years back, I watched one of her finals, and I was really impressed. So. To be put in a position to compete against her is a real privilege and gonna be a test for sure.
And that's when things shifted, before a single ball was struck in Rome. On May 6, 2026, Elena Rybakina sat down at her pre-tournament press conference and disclosed something that had been quietly shaping her entire clay court swing: severe allergies, not minor irritation, a condition that significantly disrupted her training and performance during the Madrid Open, forcing her team to adjust practice intensity and duration on a day-by-day basis. Rybakina said it herself, her physical state depends on the weather. Rainy days lower the pollen, and those are the days her body cooperates. Dry days are a different story entirely. The symptoms, watery eyes, respiratory discomfort, accumulated fatigue, aren't abstract. For a player whose entire game is built on flat, penetrating ground strokes and a serve so dominant that Maria Sakkari could only win 22% of her own first serve points against it, any drop in respiratory rhythm or physical sharpness is measurable on the scoreboard. The Rybakina, who dismantled Sakkari 6-4, 6-1 in just 75 minutes, is the version that shows up when the body cooperates. Rome's weather makes no guarantees about which version arrives on Sunday. What Rybakina is managing, walking into this round of 16, is a two-front condition: a self-admitted internal anxiety that exists against every opponent, and a documented physical vulnerability that shifts day by day. The nervous reactions being decoded out there aren't purely psychological, some of them are biological. And Alexandra Eala's coaching team, led by Joan Bosch at the Rafa Nadal Academy, would have read the exact same press conference transcript.
For Alex to win, 2 things have to happen. First, Alex has to play the match of her life. Zero fear. high consistency. Second, Rybakina has to have one of her off days. And on clay, those off days happen more than you think.
None of that, though, takes away from what Alexandra Eala has already built just to reach this moment. The 2026 Italian Open placed Eala inside history the moment she advanced to the third round. She became the first player from the Philippines to reach the third round of a WTA 1000 event on clay in the Open era. That sentence doesn't belong in a match summary, it belongs in the opening frame of a documentary. A 20-year-old from a nation with no deep-rooted clay court tradition, trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain under coach Joan Bosch, has done something no player from her country has ever done at this level, on this surface. Her path here wasn't soft. On May 8, 2026, Eala defeated world number 33 Wang Xinyu 6-4, 6-3 in straight sets. The scoreline doesn't capture the full weight of it. Wang Xinyu had already beaten Eala earlier in 2026, a tight 3-set semifinal at the ASB Classic in Auckland. Eala came to Rome carrying that loss. She reversed it on clay, the surface where she was historically considered the weaker player, with the kind of tactical clarity that made analysts reach for a very specific phrase. She's finding the sweet spot between aggression and patience, and the match against Wang wasn't clean from the opening game. Eala fell behind 3-0 in the first set, then 3-2 in the second. She didn't panic, didn't rush, didn't force anything. She absorbed the pressure, redirected it, and closed it out. Joan Bosch's method, taking Eala's naturally aggressive hard-court instincts and building them into a framework capable of surviving the suffering zone that clay demands, was visible in real time. What happens when these two styles collide on Sunday isn't abstract. The contrast is precise, and it's deeply uncomfortable for the favorite. Rybakina's game is built on elimination, flat ground strokes, a dominant serve, minimal errors. Against Maria Sakkari, a player who had publicly committed to a solid wall defensive approach modeled on Iga Swiatek, Rybakina didn't engage in extended rallies. She converted 4 of 9 breakpoints. Sakkari won 22% of her own first serve points. The match was over in 75 minutes. Rybakina didn't need patience. She needed precision, and she brought it. Eala's game is structurally different. Left-handed, which creates angles that right-handed opponents have to recalibrate against in real time. Baseline aggressive, but now layered with the clay court patience that Bosch has spent months building into her. That left hand creates geometric pressure specifically on the opponent's backhand side, disrupting the rhythm of a player like Rybakina, whose power game depends on clean contact and predictable ball flight. The tactical dilemma for Rybakina is real. Playing conservative error reduction tennis against Eala removes the pressure that makes Rybakina dominant. But going after Eala, a player who thrives when the match energy turns high risk, feeds directly into the environment where Eala plays her best tennis. There's no clean option. Every path into this match carries a cost. What happened in Miami earlier this season matters here, and it hasn't gotten nearly enough attention. During a match against Laura Siegemund, Eala found herself up against something that veteran tour players know how to use very well: time-keeping gamesmanship. Subtle, calculated, and specifically designed to disrupt younger opponents who haven't yet learned to push back. Eala's response was described as prickly. She addressed the umpire repeatedly, demanding the clock be monitored. She didn't absorb the pressure quietly. She identified it, named it, and refused to let it continue without acknowledgement. That's not a minor behavioral footnote. That's confirmation that the Alexandra Eala walking onto the clay in Rome on May 10th is not the same player who might have let Siegemund's tactics get inside her head 12 months ago. Eala is no longer operating from deference. She's asserting herself within the rules of the tour at the highest level, against opponents using experience as a psychological tool. Against a player already managing internal anxiety and a physical health crisis, that kind of psychological maturity becomes a specific and measurable weapon.
Into the third round of Rome, and she's going to take on the winner of Sakkari and Rybakina. So when the draw came out, we saw that this could be a matchup. And Rybakina, she did have a tough loss against Potapova last week. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Rybakina rebounds not only against Sakkari, but then against Eala. So we'll see what happens, but let me know in the comments below.
Now step back from the match and look at what the data is actually showing. The narrative circulating about Rybakina's nervous reactions frames Eala as the cause, but Rybakina's own season tells a different story. Rybakina doesn't go nervous a little bit because Alexandra Eala is in the draw. She goes nervous a little bit every single time she walks onto a court, against any opponent at any ranking, under any conditions. She said it herself. In 2026, in the middle of her most dominant season, she leads the WTA in prize money, she's won 83% of her matches, she's world number 2, and she still carries the internal pressure that her exterior refuses to show. What Eala has done is not create Rybakina's anxiety. Eala has arrived at the exact moment when Rybakina's compounded vulnerabilities, the allergies disrupting daily preparation, the documented history of third-round difficulty in Rome specifically, the systemic frustration over electronic line calling on clay that she called absolutely wrong after Madrid, have reached their peak accumulation. The throne Rybakina occupies in 2026 was already vibrating before Eala's name appeared in the bracket. Eala is simply the force arriving at the moment those vibrations are most visible. That's the reading no camera angle can show. That's what the data actually confirms. The match is set. The clay is ready. Rome has witnessed every kind of collapse and every kind of coronation this tournament has ever produced. Elena Rybakina arrives with $4 million in earnings, a second Grand Slam title, and a carefully managed internal world that has never fully cracked in public. Alexandra Eala arrives with a revenge win, a historic milestone, a left-hand generating angles no one on tour has fully solved, and a coaching foundation at the Rafa Nadal Academy built specifically for this surface and this level of suffering. The question Rome can't answer yet, the one that will follow this match into the history of Philippine tennis regardless of the scoreline, is whether Rybakina's two-front battle against her own biology and her own psychology will hold long enough to stop the one player on tour who has already shown, twice in this tournament alone, that she knows exactly how to walk back from a deficit, absorb the pressure, and turn it into something else entirely. What happens when the Ice Queen's internal machinery finally meets a player who doesn't need the crowd to go quiet to find her game? Rome answers that on Sunday.